So, guessing you're all going to want to know what this is, but you don't get to yet. Anyway, I love fish. I think you guys all know this already at this point. I've kept fish since I was like 4. And what I'm going to be telling you how to breed fish. Yeah. But before we can learn how to breed fish, you got to learn how to care for them. All right. And how you can keep fish is fairly simple, actually. You get a box of water. You make sure that water is filtered, and you got to keep. Imagine if you kept going to the bathroom and you never flushed. You gotta flush. That's what you do with fish. As long as you keep staying on your water changes, maintain a right temperature, that's fairly important. Your fish will be pretty happy, pretty healthy, and since fish are a relatively primitive species, actually, they only care about 2 things: survival and reproduction. That's all they care about. So they already want to reproduce. All you have to do is give them the things they need to be able to do that. And when I was doing my research on this, I was able to talk to Troy Fleck. He's the owner of Northfield Aquatics, if anyone's been around there. I talked to him, and we compared some of the ways we keep fish, and they're pretty much the same concept. You keep them warm to their temperature of where they're at in the wild naturally, and you keep their environment clean. They like clean water and plenty of food. So feeding, that's the next thing we're going to get into. Not all fish, you can't just throw a bunch of food into any fish tank and they'll eat it. Some fish are a little bit pickier than others, and you got to wean them into certain foods. And I learned this the hard way with my discus when I first started getting to breeding those, because that's where I've been breeding fish with my discus. When I first got my first discus, they didn't eat. They didn't want to eat. They didn't touch anything I put in the tank. And what I decided to do, which you might think it's a little bit cruel, is I just kind of let them starve for a couple days, and then I tried offering them some frozen food to get them into the mood to want to eat, because they're already hungry. Get them some tasty food and they'll eat. And now this thing right here, this was my very first breeding box. It's kind of banged up because it's over 7 years old. And it's actually one of my favorite breeding boxes right now. For like any smaller live bearers, like platies, they breed and then they give birth to live young. They don't have eggs or anything like that. So there's some divider spots that you can put in there, and you can have the parents in there with the young. After they give birth, the parents can stay in there, and it gives the young kind of a sense of security. And up here is another form of breeding box. As you can see, like the parents are up there, they breed, and I don't know if you can quite see it, but there's a little grate there. And when they breed, the young will go down into the lower areas, and the parents can't get down there. So that's a very nice box. And here are some of my discus, right there. And what you see, that little cone back there, that's a breeding cone. And they'll breed on that cone, and the cage there, the reason there's no cage right there for them is these guys will lay their eggs on that cone, and they need to be able to take the fungus off of these eggs without any parasites getting into them. So the parents are with the young for the entire duration of their life and upbringing. And when the young become free swimmers, the young actually do an amazing thing where they eat the slime coat off the parents, and that's how they eat. So discus are my favorite fish to breed. I actually am able to make about $45 to $60 per 2-inch fish that I breed, and that takes about 4 or 5 months to get to size, and they're really easy. They're said to be one of the hardest fish to keep, actually, but as long as they're maintained in a clean environment, like don't poop in your bed and lay in it kind of deal, that's kind of the same concept. You don't want to let these guys live around in their filth. They don't like that. I don't think you would like that either. And in conclusion, with all of this being said, the way you guys can breed fish too is start off with like the smaller live bears because they are easy. You ever heard the term breeding like a guppy or something like that? Because they're just so easy to breed. You can get like a 10-gallon tank and some moss balls, and the fish will actually go in and they'll put their eggs down into the moss ball to where the other fish in the tank can't eat the eggs. So, how to keep fish? You want to keep them clean. To care for them, keep them clean, you keep them the right temperature, you feed them to the right amount. You don't want to overfeed them because if they don't eat all their food, that's producing more waste. And finally, to breed them, it really isn't all that complicated. They want to breed, you give them a spot to do it, you're pretty much golden. And thank you. I got it.
What type of fish do you have in your slides?
The first ones that you see, those are platies. That isn't actually my photo, but this one is, and these are discus. They're the ones that I actually breed and sell for profit because they're so colorful, as you can see now by seeing them. They're very colorful. They come in all different types of colors, and they're very colorful. They're a freshwater species. You don't really find that very often in the freshwater hobby. So they come with a hefty price tag.
About how long does the breeding process take?
For these guys, for them it takes like 2 minutes. Then there's the months of them raising the fish that it takes. So for me to be able to sell them as a 2-inch discus, it takes me about anywhere between 4 and 6 months. They're the size they're selling. Because with discus, they can live almost to be as long as a cat, 25 to 30 years. So they live very long, and they can get to be the size of a crappie. So big disc shapes. So 4 to 5 months, they grow really fast in their earlier years. My assumption, I'm saying this is an assumption in the wild because they do live in the Amazon water basin. They grow so fast earlier on so they can avoid predators later on. But then they slowly grow over years.
So who do you sell these fish to?
I sell to local fish stores and online. So.
How much does it cost to raise a fish if you sell it for 45 to 60? How much does it cost?
The cost and everything is only really the food and the chemicals. So it only cost me like maybe $20 or $30 to raise a batch of 400. So it makes up for it.
Good.
So, any other questions? Yes.
How do discus fish interact with other fish?
Discus are a very slow-moving fish, so they're not necessarily a communal fish. They kind of like just living in their own ranks. You can have some smaller dither fish like neon tetras or something like that, but they like to be kind of with themselves.
How many fish do you have?
If you include my warehouse, 12,000? 12,000, I would say. Yes.
So do you imagine this will be your full-time job, breeding fish, or is this going to be a side job?
This is actually going to be my full-time job. I'm here to get a business degree so I can learn the more nuances of how to be able to handle the expenses and that sort of deal.
Where do you keep like 1,000 fish?
In a warehouse.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Alex.